The focus of Unit 1 has been, as we have seen, understanding the foundational issues of information systems. The focus of Unit 2 is basically to design information systems. Whatever we have seen conceptually, we have seen here how to actually design it and build it. But before venturing into that, I want all of you to be sensitive enough to understand that there are some contentious issues involved. Topic broadly is called ethical issues regarding information systems. In the heart of this discussion lies contemplating on four issues identified by Raymond Urban and Potter. The issues regarding privacy, accuracy, property, and accessibility. Every author tries to identify the topics according to his perspective on the subject. For example, Deborah Johnson's book on computer ethics, which is a landmark on this subject, which you have studied, identified three main areas: property rights, privacy, and responsibility as the three core issues to be discussed in computer ethics. Raymond Urban and Potter identified four: privacy, accuracy, property, and accessibility. Privacy concerns relate to how much of the personal information collected for some computing purposes should be revealed to those people who are not concerned with it, those kind of ideas. Accuracy deals with the judgment of the profession. As people rely more and more on computers to make decisions, the accurate information we give determines the kind of decision the person makes. If the information provided is not accurate, for example, the medical diagnosis, identification of tumor inside a human body, some part, there is a computer assisted some machinery to find this. In the program, the normal cells and the infected cells may have been identified with two colors when shown on the computer screen. If there is a small deviation in the display, the doctor who is diagnosing may make a wrong judgment on the exact place where the affected cells are situated. And he may go on giving the treatment and follow up and all this thing will happen. At the end, when the patient, unfortunately, if he dies, who should be then responsible? Whether the doctor who placed the judgment on the basis of the information given by the computer, or the maker of that program who made that program. That is a contentious issue, and unfortunately, this important issue has not been handled by the authors in the book. Because it's quite complex. I can understand their situation. It's not easy to debate on this topic. So even in, for example, the Deborah Johnson's book, this question is not raised at all. She deals with the whole topic in a very different way by disguising the whole issue in terms of responsibility. Here we are talking something else. Well, fine. Property is a well understood issue. I am not going to speak much on this. If information systems are built and there are many hands involved in developing it, who should ultimately own, how should we own, what should we handle? I think this issue has been pretty clearly understood by all of you. I am not going to talk about that. Accessibility is an issue or in plain terms, this question is all about security. Security. How much security should you provide? And what happens if someone breaks the security? What should we do with it? And all those kinds of issues. So, among these 4 issues, I think my primary concern will be on privacy and accessibility alone. I do topic issues too. Of course, accuracy issues are not discussed in textbook, but somebody who is very keen on this may start a discussion among students. Let me start this discussion by posing a open question. Listen to this question here. When you write an email and then send it to person 1, how many copies of this email exist? You write an email, you send it to person 1. How many copies of this email exist? Where will it be? Send. Yeah. Well, send will be saved if there is an option. Most of the email service providers provide with an option of whether you have to save the sent mail. If you don't, then it will not be. So that's optional. Take save. Apart from which, how many copies? 2 copies. One with the actual receiver. Second where it would be. Where is it? Where will that be? See, this question I have asked it to many people. It becomes a very good starting point for this discussion. This very simple thing shows how much we lack in understanding this whole technology. See, in good old days, if you had written a letter, maybe you have retained a copy of it by keeping a carbon sheet, or you sent the actual copy to the person, he would have received it, he would have read it, and if he had burned the letter and completely merged all the remains in the water and leave it there, there would be no way somebody can retrieve that letter back. Right? Not so today. Well, I instantly recall a very powerful fictitious machine which was there in this novel Calcutta Chromosome of Amitav Ghosh. If anybody has read that book, it's a very interesting book. Calcutta Chromosome. If you find an opportunity to read that book, it's very interesting for our perspective. There is this idea of a machine which the main actor in that story uses. The machine is very futuristic. The moment this guy tells, I want this information, that machine will dig deep into all the possible sources and recreate that information. Part of this idea is proofreading. When you send a mail to someone, there are literally thousands of copies made. Hopefully you have read this in your networks classes. How does TCP/IP mechanism work? TCP/IP mechanism works with this basic principle that when you send a packet of information from source to destination, it is split into numerous small packets, and each packet takes a very different route. The number of hops a packet takes to reach the destination from the source cannot be actually figured out. And when they go from one place to other place, they leave a trace. Why is this? This is because this is inherent design of modern internet. Please go back and understand why internet was designed. Internet was designed because they wanted a system wherein In the times of war, when one city or one station is bombarded and if it is completely lost, they wanted the entire information to be still present somewhere. This is the inherent design principle of internet, to retain any information that you send for infinite amount of time. Don't think this is a story that I am telling here. This is a fact. High profile people like Bill Gates, Bill Clinton have been taken to courts. In some cases, one of the evidence produced in the court against them were the emails they wrote before 5 years, 7 years. Imagine, if the emails of such powerful persons can be accessed and then produced in the court as an evidence, what about us? There are many instances. Have you heard the name Vikram Buddhi? Vikram Buddhi, an Indian in Purdue University. In fact, I have written about him in my blog, in my earlier blog also, during 2006. His case had become a high profile case. In fact, a very small attempt done by that doctorate student in Purdue University, he wrote a very small comment against George Bush in a discussion forum. He was taken to court. He was proven guilty by the authorities by using his internet ID and the email IDs and the IP address and everything. In fact, I remember saying in my blog that everybody should read the report which was filed by the police regarding this case. It read really like a manual on how to trace an email. It was in very detailed fashion. They had recorded on how did they trace the message written by him anonymously. He had posted a message. He is still in the jail, you know. He is serving a life sentence. This case is not limited to US. This happens very much in our country also. There are many cases. Do you know about this blogger I was telling to someone on why I have become suddenly very neutral in my blog writing? I don't take names at all. That is because a fellow blogger was harassed by a high profile female journalist from a leading TV agency for writing something against her. He was literally harassed every day, legally. And the guy had to offer a public apology. And now he has almost stopped blogging, he never blogs. There was this company, not company actually, a educational institute who gives executive management education. Let us not take names. The high profile man running this institute gives full page ads every day in the newspapers regarding his institute and brings in Bollywood superstars to his place. Let's not take names. That person, well, everything is being recorded, so I'm very scared. When some of the bloggers took this issue seriously on the validity of running such an institute without taking permission from the authorities, they were hounded by these people, legally again. Very recently, you may be aware that one of our own students who is right now he must be a batchman in computer science. I think he is a batchman in computer science. In a very playful manner changed a VB script and accidentally it got released into the internet, and some people from defense had come down and somehow we had to specify them saying it was unintentional and that guy, whatever he did, he had no intention to release a worm or Trojan horse or whatever you want to say. One of my own student, when he was in a month-long journey in Himalayas, had a very interesting experience. There in a very small village, it seems there was only one place where you could access the internet. and he went to that place to check his routine emails, and suddenly this message comes up from that machine saying that this machine has been hacked by this person, a student of MSRIT. He wrote that also. He is in computer science. I called him then and we took the what is to be done, and we had to convince everyone that this was not intentional. He could have been pulled to courts unless we implement in a timely manner. Why I am saying all this is because in India there was a time when we could be a little bit careful regarding computers because there was no law. But now times have changed. Indian IT Act 2000 was very dilute regarding these matters because the primary focus of IT Act 2000 was digital signatures, not security. But Indian IT Act has been amended in 2008. If you have not read it, please read that. It is a dry document. If you can't, I have asked some students. I have written a one-page summary of Indian IT Act 2008 amendment that was given as a flyer in one of the public functions where I was speaking against that. I will be giving that copy to you. Please read that at least and try to understand. Not only understand, try to spread this message to all your friends. Because in colleges like this, I am very sure there are many people who are capable of playing around. It's nothing wrong. But today the law is kind of strict and don't get into trouble. It is my first request. Second reason why I am going so detailedly into these matters is because the two topics that I have chosen to speak of, privacy and security, today are not really ethical issues. Please understand. Ethical issues emerge only when there is an absence of law. If there is no law and you have to decide what to do, ethics will come into picture. Whether you should do it or not, is it right, whether there is a moral backing for whatever you are doing, is there any philosophical theories that you can use to defend yourself. All those issues will come when there is no law in that matter. So ethics comes when there is absence of law. I claim that these issues are no more ethical because there is a very strict law. It is other matter whether you accept the law or not. You may accept a law, you may not accept a law. That does not mean you should not follow that law. Once a law is there, it is our primary duty to simply follow it. Then what to do if you don't like it? You take the fight using other course. Let me give you a very small example. Mobile phones are banned inside educational institutes. I have the moral right to say that you have to follow because I don't use mobile phones anymore. So I can have this moral high ground and say don't use mobile phones inside. There is a rule. You may accept it, you may not accept it, it is different. Once there is a rule, we should follow it. So what to do if you don't agree with this? Write a petition to Vice Chancellor, form a pressure group, see why this rule was formed, who took that decision, Academic Senate took the decision, who are there in the Academic Senate, try to find out. Try to meet them personally or try to influence them through some pressure groups. Then make them realize that this issue is important and they have to take it in the next Academic Senate meeting. Let them discuss. Have a signature campaign. These are different issues. But once the law is enforced, we have to follow it. We are bound to follow it. Let us not mix these two issues. So issues regarding privacy and security today in India is like this. There is an established law and it is our primary responsibility to understand the law. Whether we agree or disagree with it is separate. In medicine, there is a whole lot of discussion reserved where they try to teach the medical students on medical jurisprudence, the law regarding the medicine. Unfortunately for for a long time in India there was no law, so there was no attempts done. But now since there is a law, I think even if there is no way that you learn is within the academic scenario, you should make some attempt to learn. It's very important for us. Let me just speak about some of the salient points here and then allow you to read on your own and try to form your own judgments regarding this. Let us first take privacy. Many advanced countries have a separate legislation for privacy. US has its famous Privacy Act, which is derived from one of the primary foundational principles on which they have established their state, freedom of speech. On the basis of freedom of speech, which they call the First Amendment, they have formed a separate Privacy Act, an act under which anybody who thinks that his privacy has been compromised can seek protection. And all the companies who are collecting personal data are bound to follow certain rules. For example, how many times have we designed an application which forces applicants to fill their personal details? How many times have we done that? Any application that you have designed till now, library management system, student information system, bus reservation systems, you may have collected some personal information. Have you ever thought on how to store this information and how to see that this is not accessed by the outside parties? Do you know that there are laws governing on where you should store this data, for how long should you store this data, and how should you dispose this data? There is a law, and we are supposed to follow it. See, please understand, all these issues have emerged because of technology. It is a very standard argument. Why do we have privacy issues newly? Because of technology. Earlier, I could go to a store, get something, pay cash, come out, my transaction over, nobody could trace. It is not so today. I go to a store, I buy something, I swap my card. The moment I swap my card, he can actually know much about me. Right? Link this to the ability of today's network and computational abilities. In a network country like US or in UK, where every citizen is identified by one number, social security number or something like that, which we are trying to use here, the same kind of issues will emerge here. That is, whatever I do, from the time I am born till the time I die, everything will be saved, stored, processed, interlinked. This is a very dangerous situation. Therefore, there are certain laws governing privacy in most of the countries. In India, we do not have a separate law for privacy, but IT Act amended in 2008 has a special clause on protection of privacy. Article 77 and 77A speaks about this. It very clearly says that if anyone thinks that his privacy is compromised by collecting certain kind of data, they can seek protection under this. That is, the provision is there. Let us leave this here. Now let me add my comments on this. This is a situation that there is a provision available. If you think that you are not willing to give some information, or if you think somebody is misusing the information, you can file a complaint under IT Act 2008, section 77, 77A, and you can take the legal course. Now, what is my comment on this issue? My comment on this issue is this. The Amendment IT Act has a very, very dangerous thing which all of us should be aware about. It has introduced the term cyber terrorism. Most of you don't know this one. It has introduced a term called as cyber terrorism. It has given a very clear definition on what is cyber terrorism. If you look at the definition of what is cyber terrorism, you will understand why I am so very against this amendment. Disturbing public order. Any attempt by using computer to disturb public order is defined as cyber terrorism. What does it mean? You write something in your blog which may hurt certain group of people. They can book a case against you and the police may register it under cyber terrorism. Indian IT Act has defined all the offences under separate lists. There are sections 66 to 74, 75 I think, which discusses each individual computer offence. What is computer fraud? What is computer worm? All these issues are separately defined, but all this is now overridden by cyber terrorism. See what happens. Let us look at the contemporary examples from the real world. There is separate law which deals with what should you do if you are indulged in robbery, if you are indulged in petty pickpocketing and things like that, right? And there is POTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act. Now what happens when the police wants to register a case? They can either register under these things, which are very small laws,